this video, we embark on a journey into the darker realms of the past, where justice took on a grisly visage. From the dusty scrolls of forgotten civilizations to the blood-stained pages of medieval Europe, our exploration into the most gruesome punishment methods of antiquity will leave you both horrified and mesmerized. So buckle up and brace yourselves for an unforgettable journey into the shadows of history. Get ready to confront the darkest depths of human cruelty and embark on a quest for knowledge that will both shock and enlighten. Let's begin with crucifixion. Crucifixion was an exceptionally cruel and degrading form of execution. The victim was affixed to the cross, typically by nails driven through the wrists and feet. Their body weight would cause intense pain and gradual asphyxiation as the diaphragm muscles became too weak to draw a full breath. Victims often lingered for days in agony before finally succumbing to exhaustion, dehydration, and exposure. It was a horrific public spectacle designed to terrorize onlookers into obedience. The ancient Persians, Carthaginians, and Seleucid Greeks all utilized crucifixion, but it is most closely associated with the Roman Empire. As Rome expanded, crucifixion became a tool of conquest and control, used to execute rebellious subjects, enemies of the state, and common criminals alike. Victims were displayed publicly as a warning, their suffering a stark reminder of the consequences of defying Roman authority. Next we have drawing and quartering. Drawing and quartering was a gruesome method of execution favored in medieval Europe. The horrific spectacle involved tying the victim to 4 horses, each pulling in a different direction, effectively tearing the body apart. This punishment went beyond mere physical agony. It was a public display of power and a means of deterrence. The process began with the condemned being dragged behind a horse to the execution site, a practice known as drawing. Once there, the victim was tied to a wooden frame and their limbs were secured to the legs of 4 horses. The horses were then whipped into a frenzy, causing them to violently pull the body in 4 directions, ripping it apart. Drawing and quartering was reserved for the most serious of crimes, such as high treason, heresy, and counterfeiting. Its use was particularly prevalent in England, where it was employed against political and religious dissenters. Impalement was a favored method of execution used by some ancient civilizations, most notably the Assyrians. The condemned would be skewered alive on a sharpened stake, left to slowly slide down as gravity did its work. This brutal form of capital punishment was a horrific way to die, inflicting unimaginable physical pain and psychological terror. The impalement process began by securing the victim to the stake, often through their abdomen or chest. The sharp wooden or metal spike was then slowly driven into the body, penetrating internal organs and causing excruciating agony. As the victim's body weight pulled them down the stake, their suffering was prolonged for hours or even days before merciful death eventually arrived. Burning at the stake. Throughout history, humanity has employed some truly horrific methods of punishment, with burning at the stake being one of the most notorious. This brutal practice was often associated with accusations of witchcraft, especially during the tumultuous period of the Middle Ages. Bound tightly to a wooden stake, the condemned victim would face the searing, unrelenting heat of the encroaching flames. As the fire grew, the unfortunate soul would be subjected to unimaginable agony, their flesh slowly charring and their screams echoing through the gathered crowd. This was considered an especially suitable end for those accused of heresy or other crimes deemed completely unforgivable by the religious and judicial authorities of the time. Scaphism. This macabre practice originated in ancient Persia. The victim would be placed inside a hollowed-out tree trunk or boat, force-fed a mixture of milk and honey until they developed severe diarrhea. Then left to float on a stagnant pond, attracting insects that would infest their exposed flesh, leading to a slow and excruciating death. Scaphism, also known as the boats, was a particularly gruesome form of execution. Sawing. This gruesome method was employed by the ancient Romans and Greeks. The victim would be suspended upside down, and a large saw would be used to slowly slice through their body from the groin up to the head. The victim would struggle and scream in agony as the jagged blade cut deeper, eventually reaching vital organs. Blood would spurt and the body would be split in 2. a grisly spectacle designed to terrorize the populace into obedience. This barbaric practice highlighted the cruelty and ruthlessness of ancient punishment, where the suffering of the condemned was prioritized over any notion of mercy or justice. Breaking wheel. Victims would be bound to a large wooden wheel and beaten with iron bars, shattering their bones. Left to suffer, exposed to the elements, they would endure agonizing deaths. This horrific punishment was a spectacle of brutality, designed to strike fear into all who witnessed it. The breaking wheel, also known as the Catherine wheel, was one of the most brutal execution methods of the medieval era. Criminals would be strapped to the wheel, which would then be slowly rotated as their limbs were systematically broken with iron bars or wooden cudgels. The process was deliberately drawn out to maximize the victim's suffering. Once their bones were shattered, the mutilated prisoner would be left on the wheel to die, succumbing to exposure, blood loss, or a final merciful blow. This gruesome public display was intended to serve as a stark warning, highlighting the consequences of defying the authorities. The breaking wheel epitomized the cruelty and barbarism that characterized criminal justice in the Middle Ages. Boiling to death. Boiling to death was a method of execution practiced in various cultures throughout history. The victim was submerged in boiling liquid, typically water or oil. This excruciating and horrific form of punishment served as a stark warning to those who dared challenge the authority of the ruling powers. The agonizing death throes of the victim, as their flesh melted away, sent a powerful message to the community. This brutal technique was employed to crush dissent, instill fear, and maintain the absolute control of those in power. Boiling to death was not confined to a single region or civilization. Its use spanned across the ancient world, from the Mesopotamian empires to the Far East. As we close this chapter on the most brutal punishment methods of ancient times, let us reflect on the depths to which humanity has descended in the pursuit of justice or control. These tales are not merely grim reminders of our past, but cautionary tales for the future. If you found yourself enraptured by the dark allure of history's shadowy corners, then join us on our Forgotten Civilizations. There's always more to uncover. Remember, the past holds the key to understanding the present and shaping the future. So, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell to ensure you never miss out on our next journey through the mysteries of history.